I want to go over this video right here. This is home surveillance camera shows officer lied on a report when charging man with major crimes. Now, this happened some time ago, 3 years ago, but it's still pertinent today because this kind of thing still happens more than you can possibly wrap your mind around. Listen to this.
A man who could have been sent to prison for years based on claims in a police report was saved by a home surveillance camera. The footage showed he did not attack an officer as claimed in the report. I2 investigator Adam Walser spoke to the Lake Wales man and hears from local leaders who say it's not the first time they've heard complaints about heavy-handed policing in their small town.
It's not the first time they've heard about heavy-handed policing in their small town? How many times have you heard about heavy-handed policing in your town and other towns on a daily basis? I mean, YouTube and Rumble and BitChute and all the social media platforms, Twitter, all of them are rife and filled to the brim every single day with new occurrences of some guy with power in a badge and uniform doing something bad to his fellow human being and getting away with it. How many times have you heard this? How many times do we have to hear it to realize, hey, this is not just a serious problem. This is systemic. It's not just one police department. It looks like it's all police and sheriff's departments across the nation every day of the week.
I stopped at a stop sign right here on 3rd Street, and I noticed the officer behind me way before I even stopped.
Chris Cordero was driving to Publix February 8th to pick up medicine for his young son when Lake Wales police officer Colt Black pulled him over. Unbeknownst to the officer, a camera across the street captured it all.
I get out the vehicle to ask him what's going on because, he's been following me for a while.
Cordero stands by his car for more than 20 seconds, but Officer Black's report says Cordero immediately exited the driver door and began to charge towards my patrol vehicle.
And I just want to point out something here. This man would have gone to prison, and the police department would have believed Officer Colt Black, and the judge would have believed him, and the jury would have believed him because they always defer to and give preference to the authorities. And if it wasn't for this one single surveillance camera, that this guy happened to go to the neighbor and say, hey, did you happen to get this on recording? Please let me know you did. This guy would have gone to jail for years. How many people are sitting in jail right now because nobody thought to record? This is why you always record the police, whether it's happening to you or happening to somebody else. Record them because that's what you would want done to you. If the cops were messing with you and you didn't have an opportunity, or they took the camera out of your hands or whatever, and you couldn't record yourself, you would want somebody to do you a favor and start recording because that's your insurance policy. You're not going to do something wrong, but they will. The cops will.
It says right here in this report this officer filed in the court that you came at him with clenched fists.
That's absolutely not true.
Officer Black approaches Cordero 30 seconds later.
He sucker punched me from the back right here, cracked a piece of my tooth out. I landed on the ground.
Moments later, Officer Travis Worley arrives.
I don't know about you. I'm already fuming. They would have literally gotten away with this and essentially sold this man into military or prison industrial complex slavery if there wasn't a camera to vindicate him.
It's next, but you can make out a struggle behind the car.
They both jumped on me and beat me up really bad.
In the report, Officer Black says he delivered an elbow strike to the left side of Cordero's head because he thought he was reaching for a weapon.
Wow.
In the complaint Cordero filed, he said Worley used a racist slur.
I've never heard that terminology in my life.
Cordero was charged with resisting arrest, assault on a law enforcement officer, and making a death threat to a law enforcement officer.
They take this really seriously, guys. If they see, they resisted arrest, oh my gosh, they were resisting the moral authority, is how they see that. Juries see it like this. Judges see it like this. Prosecutors see it like this. You resisted a good, honest, noble soul. You resisted an angel. Oh my gosh, you must be a devil. That is exactly what it's like. Assault and you didn't just resist, but you assaulted the officer. Man, this guy's life was hanging on the thinnest of threads. You can't even see it. It's a microscopic thread, because not only was it just happened to be recorded by a home surveillance camera, but the tree just happened to not be in the way. Because even if it was recorded, if the tree was in the way, the cop still would have stuck to his lie. How much do you want to bet that the cop who lied about a guy who might have had his life and family ruined, he's going to get prescription medication for his child, by the way. A family would have lost the head of the household. Children would have lost their father. And the cop would have went to bed that night, sleeping on his pillow in his bed, in his house, in the comfort of his own home. And how many people has he done that to? This is so egregious.
Officer. When he bonded out of jail the next day, he went door to door in the neighborhood
Thank
until
God.
he found the footage. After Cordero shared the footage with police, Officer Black wrote in another report, "I believe my perception was altered due to the high stress of the incident."
When
Wow.
I told Mr. Cordero that I believed him, he broke down in tears.
Yeah, of course he broke down in tears. Why? If he was a single family parent, like a parent, a single parent with a child, his kid, not only could he have gone to jail for years, but his kid, but it could have been carted off to CPS. And we know the track record of CPS and what happens to children in that detestable organization. This could have ruined so many lives for so many years, because when that kid grew up, if he went to CPS and he did get abused, like we hear so many times, how many lives would that child negatively affect if he grew up to be a bitter adult because the system just screwed him and his dad and dissolved his family, all based on one officer's lie? How much evil has been allowed to run rampant in America from a lie on a police report? One single lie, let alone a plethora of lies sprinkled through the entire report, because there was no camera present to show exactly what happened. Cops lie, cameras don't.
Attorney Sarah Jones provided the video to the state's attorney's office, which immediately dropped the charges. Jones says she's heard multiple complaints from clients about Lake Wales police officers using heavy.
And they drop the charges. That's not enough. Yeah, I'm glad this guy's free to go, and I'm glad this guy didn't get his life and his family lives ruined, but drop those charges and then pursue charges on the officer for what he did. Not just losing his job, not just losing his credentials so he can't become a cop anymore, but actually trying this guy and putting him in jail. How about that? That would be justice. But you don't see that. You hardly ever see that. Why? Qualified immunity. They're immune from any and all prosecution. They can commit and get away with active police criminality. And I'm using active police criminality as a quote that came from the Mullen Commission when they found out that there was nothing good in the New York City Police Department, that it was systemically corrupt from top to bottom.
Heavy-handed tactics.
These officers who have issues with power and control target people who they know won't be believed.
Yep.
Do you feel like that the leadership at that police department realize that there are potentially some bad apples on the force?
If I'm to answer you honestly, yes. They know.
I hate it. I hate it. Potentially some bad apples on the force. Well, if they recognize there are bad apples on the force and they only reprimand them or give them desk duty or give them paid administrative leave, which is a paid vacation, then they are part of the problem too. And I'm talking about the higher ups. I'm talking about Sergeant Black or Officer Black's boss and Officer Black's boss's boss. It's systemic. When you know a guy like this is on the force and you don't prosecute him to the fullest extent of the law and put him in jail, you are the problem, Sergeant. You are the problem, Lieutenant. You are the problem, Captain.
How can they not? When I stood at the city commission podium, when I stood and I talked to them and said, I'll tell you, I'll show you, come talk to me. I'll let you know who they are and what they're doing, and I'll help you build the cases against them.
We requested an interview with the police chief, but he declined, citing an ongoing internal investigation. In an emailed statement, the department confirmed that Colt Black resigned effective February 10th, and that Travis Worley had been placed on administrative station duty. The I team has uncovered both.
Not good enough. They should pursue these men. They should apprehend them. They should put the torture cuffs on them, throw them in the back of the patrol cruiser, get them down for fingerprinting, and throw them into a cage like they did to Karen Garner and make fun of them outside of his cell or their cells. Heck, can you believe? Because that's what we do to cops who are corrupt in a just, righteous, and noble world. But why don't they do that? Because they're not just, and they're not righteous, and they're not noble.
Officers have been previously investigated. 2 complaints against Black were investigated and closed without any action taken because the investigator found he did not violate policy.
So he's got a history of criminality already, and we already have a history of back scratching, and we're going to look the other way on Officer Colt Black here. And then what do you expect him to do? You didn't jail him. You didn't take away his property. You didn't take away his pension. You didn't do any more than slap him on the wrist. And not even that on this, right? Well, we didn't find any wrongdoing. We investigated ourselves, our thin blue line. He's a fellow lodge member, so we didn't see him do anything wrong. Imagine that.
Black was disciplined in 2018 for an unauthorized vehicle pursuit. Worley, named Officer of the Year in 2019 and past president of the Lake Wales Police Officers Association,
oh my God,
has been the subject of 4 citizen complaints and 2 internal investigations.
But he's the officer. If he's the Officer of the Year, it reminds me of Officer Matt Schneider. Remember him? They highlighted him on Cops or Live PD a month prior to what he did to Johnny Wheatcroft in Glendale. They hold these people up. I'm telling you, if you see an Officer of the Year already, because of history, because of what we know in history, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. Those people who are put on a pedestal as an Officer of the Year, they're probably the worst of the worst because they're trying to hide their corruption, it seems like, in plain sight. Always getting accolades, always got the plaques on the wall. They're always the ones moving up in rank. They get the higher salaries. They get the awards. They get the notoriety. Officer of the Year. And then you look in their history and it's like, oh, this guy's got a lot of complaints. And then he did this to this guy. He was willing to put this guy's life and his family's life on the chopping block. And you let him go?
Including 2 allegations he used racial slurs. The president of the Police Benevolent Association said Worley was cleared in both instances. In this complaint, the Lake Wales High School principal emailed the police chief about Worley, alleging he used a racial slur in front of students, saying, quite simply, he is not the same caliber as the other officers I know are. Not even close. The complaint was investigated by the deputy chief, but no wrongdoing was substantiated.
Of course not. Well, don't worry. We're going to investigate ourselves. What if you use that excuse on a roadside traffic stop? Sir, do you know how fast you're going? Well, I don't know, officer. I'll tell you what. I promise I'm going to investigate myself and I'll give you a call back. And then you just drive away. Well, we know that's not going to work. That's not going to wash with that cop. They will hunt you down. But somehow it's supposed to work when they tell you that they're going to investigate themselves. What a laugh.
Worley was also the subject of an internal investigation after an African-American female officer accused him of using a racial slur while on a call. The report says investigators were unable to prove if a racial slur was used by Officer Worley, but investigators found evidence Worley used multiple profane words while in a heated argument. He was suspended for 8 hours without pay.
8 hours of suspension. Man, if you did that on social media, you would be deplatformed so quick, even from X. X would deplatform you for that. But somehow, if you're a cop, people get blinded by that shiny badge and that clown costume. What's up with that?
2020. Worley defended himself, writing, more than ample opportunities were given for someone to provide evidence of me being racist, with negative results. City Commissioner Terry Howell says she was troubled by what happened at Cordero and by recent complaints from others.
All police are not trying to intimidate people. That's not the case. But when you have 1 or 2 bad apples, and then they're spilling that bad apple.
We got to get over this hurdle. It can't be 1 or 2 bad apples, because if those 2 bad apples are allowed to stay in that crate, then the people allowing them to stay in that crate or that bushel basket are bad apples themselves, which means there's way more. way more than a couple bad apples. And if the guy at the top of the food chain is allowing the bad apples, then there's way more bad apples than you can possibly shake a stick at.
Or to other officers, then that butt start growing.
Howell made a proposal for police body cameras more than a year ago, but it failed to gain traction. But just days after Cordero's arrest...
And what good is that? If you have body cams, if you issue cops of body cameras and you make a policy where you got to wear these body cameras, where's the policy that says you are prohibited from ever turning these body cameras off? If they were really interested in transparency, they would have cameras in the courtroom. They would have body cameras that could not be turned off and could not be muted and will never be edited or reformatted or redacted, and will always be up for viewing of the general public. You won't even have to request it. We'll start a website and we'll upload every one of those body cameras every single night to our website so you can see how our officers are doing. No need to request. We love transparency, and that's what we're going to do. Do you know one police department or sheriff's department that does that? Yeah, we have, I'll tell you what, we'll even have a live feed so that you guys can look at it live so we don't have an opportunity to redact it. Why wouldn't you? I mean, if you guys are that good, if you're that heroic, if you're like the superheroes in uniform that everybody talks about, that thin blue line, you just can't beat them, then why wouldn't you just have an active live feed for every single body camera and dash cam in every single police cruiser on every single cop in every single state in the United States? You would if you loved transparency. Why wouldn't you?
The body cam program was on the commission agenda again.
A home video was able to capture something that occurred. I do believe that the cams are needed.
We've got police that's supposed to protect and serve. They are actually the ones that are doing the home.
Yep. They're not serving and protecting. They're harassing and collecting from the rest of us. And they're lying on reports, and they don't care if our butts get thrown in jail for the rest of our lives. They're going to go home and sleep on their own comfy pillow and tuck their kids in at night while my kids are in fear and terror.
Putting lives before money, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
The program passed by a unanimous vote, making Lake Wales the first city in Polk County to adopt body cams. Chris Cordero wishes it happened sooner.
How many more innocent people are sitting in jail? How many people in the community are scared to come forward about these offices?
Yep.
I'm I-Team investigator Adam Walser, taking action for you.
Look at that right there. Look at that. So again, if it wasn't for another example of somebody recording the cops' evil actions, another innocent man would be sitting in jail and his family would be utterly destroyed. Always, always record the police. Always.